This is an Irish independent podcast.
You actually can't sell a new vehicle without some of these features, right? Because they do make cars far, far safer. It's funded by the Irish government. You know, there's testing going on in Ireland.
There is a feeling that sometimes you are safer if you were a female passenger at midnight getting into a taxi that is driverless.
All of AI is almost this. They took our jobs. It's not. It's just going to make us a hell of a lot more efficient. My son is out cycling right now. The stress of a 13-year-old out just going to the lake for a swim or going to the field for a puck around. That stress is awful because it's because of the way people drive.
You're listening to The Big Tech Show with Adrian Weckler, sponsored by Deal. Deal lets you hire, manage, pay and equip anyone, anywhere. Visit DEEL.com/bigtech. Hello, you're welcome to The Big Tech Show with me, Adrian Weckler. Now imagine your taxi pulls up, you get into it, you discover there's no one there except a screen and a speaker that welcomes you by name. Would you continue in that taxi? This is what happened to me a couple of weeks ago in California. I was over for a tech conference. I ordered a Waymo cab, the same way as you'd order a Free Now or a Lyft or an Uber on your phone. Rocks up, you get in, the steering wheel just starts moving and it pulls away. If self-driving cars were introduced in the Irish market, as has been loosely planned for about a decade and might be another decade before they arrive, would you get one of those? How long will it be until Ireland follows the US and maybe soon the UK in allowing self-driving vehicles in some capacity on the roads? Well, I'm joined by Barry Lunn, founder and CEO of Provizio, which is a Shannon-based deep tech company whose software-defined imaging, radar and AI systems lets vehicles perceive, predict and prevent collisions. And Barry's been on this podcast a few times to set us straight on matters adjacent to this. Barry, you're welcome back to the podcast again.
Great to be here, Adrian.
Listen, what's the story here in Europe? How far are we away in your reading of it from the type of self-driving taxis or self-driving cars I've been talking about?
Yeah, so the self-driving, because there's almost two sides to this, right? There's the self-driving taxi business model, and then there's just autonomous vehicles and ubiquitous autonomy, right? And the two models are very different, and they obviously have a different financial implication. So Waymo, who you've been in the car with, they've cracked it, right? So they have the autonomous drive taxis, and they're very good and they're very safe, right? And they're proven.
In fact, they're safer than human-driven cars, is the statistics that I've read.
Absolutely. But the problem you have there is Waymo does have a scaling problem, right? So it's still expensive. It still requires a lot of training. It's still, there's a big infrastructural side to it, right? So
and the cars at the moment are mostly Jaguars. So they're like $70,000-$80,000 cars with all of the equipment, all the LiDAR, all of the gear. It's sick. They're six-figure cars that they have on the road.
Yeah, and that's coming down, right? So they generationally, what tends to happen with each generation of Waymo is you have a new vehicle kind of thing, and then you have a new sensor setup. So it's public information. They've moved on to a Chinese platform, so they're slowly but surely reducing those costs. But the whole infrastructure and training and what happens to the cars in the evening, that kind of thing, and who charges them, all that. That's still a big investment, right? Waymo just raised 16 billion, right, to expand into 10 more cities, right? And I've got bad news for everyone, like Ireland or Dublin or Limerick isn't going to be one of those, right? For very obvious economic reasons, right? You gotta get that payback, and we're not that market, right? So, and obviously,
but London is one, isn't it?
London is one, and Tokyo is the other. Now the language is a little loose around how that's going to be rolled out, but those are marquee cities, right? Like they're the ones, if you're going to go, and Milan will be next for the fashion, right?
Now, can I just say about London? Because when I was in the Waymo, I was around the San Jose area. And it goes all the way now from San Francisco down to San Jose. That's about, 40 miles, about 70 kilometers or so, and in and around a very large corridor now. But by and large, it's still kind of a grid system. It's sort of mostly flat. Well, San Francisco is not flat, but the roads aren't especially complicated. Now, go to London. All those back roads, side roads, like people, parking cars half on the path. Like there are warrens there. It's going to be a lot more challenging, isn't it?
It is and it isn't. Something has happened in the meantime, right? And it's the AI side of things, right? An end-to-end AI that's being operated. So, like the original Waymo vehicles were essentially hard coded, right? So you told them what to do in all situations, you trained them on everything, you mapped everything. But now Waymo and pretty much like Tesla comes from the opposite end, they're fully end-to-end vision only, right? So that generalizes pretty well, pretty quickly. So it does learn from the expert driver. And in Waymo's case, when you have a trained expert driver itself, plus a human driver, they can actually get up to speed quite quickly. So I'd have a lot more hope for them in that regard now, that kind of way. And similarly in Japan, you do have to localize, but you'd be amazed how quickly, end-to-end AI does actually, start to localize and generalize. It's pretty amazing. So from that perspective, I think they'll be pretty strong. I think the other reason for London, I wouldn't rule out the role of Wave. It's a London-based autonomous company. Essentially, very similar view to the Musk view of the world in terms of autonomy end to end, but mixing it with other sensors. I don't think they'd like them to be getting too much of a head start anywhere and not be showing that they're so far ahead.
Yeah, yeah. And look, it's worth just very briefly reminding people of what the different levels of autonomy are, because like we've had things like self-parking cars for 15 years. For a decade, we've had cars that can nudge you if you're getting too close to the center of the lane. We have a lot of that kind of stuff. The cruise control now on most new cars is very advanced, but it's really when you get up to that level, it's five levels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you get up to that level 2 plus and then 3, and then the holy grail is kind of 4, isn't it? Level 4 is when is Waymo level, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So 4 is fully autonomous vehicle, but in a controlled operational domain, right? And the thing everyone kind of forgets sometimes as well is the off-road domain has quite a bit of a level 4 going on there. In agriculture and mining, there's a lot of interesting stuff off-road, but on-road is kind of where we're all centered because of the safety aspect and that side. So yeah, Waymo is at level 4. Like the problem with the levels going from 0 to 5 is it's not linear, right? Like the gap from level 2 to level 3 is humongous. So that's why you hear about now you have people saying they've level 2, level 2 plus, level 2 plus plus. It's like
And
it's all level 2.
just about meat on those bones. So Tesla's full self-driving, technically and legally, that's in the level 2 sort of general ballpark, right? So it means legally you can't actually take your hands off the wheel in Europe or actually I think in the States as
There's a
well.
correction to that. There's a correction to that. So level 2 is basically eyes on,
Yeah.
right? Level 3 is eyes off, right? So you
Yes.
don't have to supervise it anymore.
And
But
there's
under
two
level
cars in
2,
Europe, right? The Mercedes S-Class and the Mercedes EQS, that you're allowed
yeah,
to do that in a tiny number of zones in
exactly.
Germany under the right weather conditions, up to
Yeah.
95 kilometers an hour. At least, so it's not like you can just sit into it and let it take you to work from your house.
No, and BMW had the same, and they both kind of rolled back on that as well, because level 3 isn't really something people were prepared to pay for or deal with the trade-off of the speed and things like that. So level 2 plus, but what is interesting though in Europe, it's now legislated for hands-off level 2, right? And Ireland has implemented it just recently as well, right? So in March, Ireland implemented that. So you can actually have hands-off level 2 driving in Ireland, and there are vehicles on the road here that are capable of it. However, the OEMs haven't turned it on yet, right? And this is typical in Ireland. Like there'd always be a little lag because we're not that exciting in market, right? So BMW are going to do it like the new iX3, the software-defined vehicle, that they could turn on level 2 hands-off in that tomorrow. They just haven't done so.
Can we
right?
just clarify though, Barry, what that means, level 2 hands off? Because this is an issue that we talk about in terms of Tesla an awful lot, whether you can, whether you can't. Level 2 hands off, what does that mean you can do when you're in the driver's seat?
It means you just supervise the driving. You don't have to hold the wheel.
So your hands are off, but you must still be supervising. You can't do an email.
Correct. I mean, it's monitoring what you're doing, right? So it's looking at your face and it'll tell you. And even the hands-on systems right now will notice after a while if you're not, and the more sophisticated ones will notice when you're doing lazy hands-on, right? Before you get away with, even a neon, right? But you can't do that anymore. So yeah,
Yeah.
you are in charge, and it's very clear you're in charge in that situation. And that's now legislated, as I say, in Ireland. So it is an interesting one. People think we don't have autonomy. We actually have mandated autonomy in Europe. You actually can't sell a new vehicle without some of these features, right? Because they do make cars far, far safer. So in certain situations, the robotics in the vehicle do take over, and it will limit your speed, right? They haven't. So you've probably used the speed limiter in your vehicle, I'm sure. They're really, really handy, right? But they annoy people because sometimes they like to, do different things.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it annoys you in a while. At some stage, you're just going to turn it on all over Europe and say, sorry, guys, everyone's speed is limited to the
Yeah,
speed
but
limit.
just I don't want us to be given maybe the wrong impression to anyone listening to this. If you say buy a Tesla Model 3, and if you buy FSD, full self-driving on that, I think it's €3,800 or £4,000, something like that. Legally in Ireland, my impression was that you weren't allowed still let it take over the driving as you go to work.
Correct. Yep, you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's limited rollout happening in Europe and tests and things like that. But as yet, and
So
equally,
we have, what you're saying is we have the scaffolding, the infrastructure for it to be for this system to be switched on legislatively and from a regulatory point of view.
exactly. And they did the safety testing here, and so they know what you have to achieve. So I think where you'll see the first vehicles that will achieve that will be things like the Mercedes and the BMW and the Volvo vehicles, because they have the mix of sensing that's legislated for as well, right? So
Yeah.
I'd be very slow on, and FSD is still vision only, camera only based. That's going to have a very, very difficult safety case to make,
Yeah,
right? In
well, what
most
do we
countries.
think about that? Because I've heard different opinions on that from an awful lot of safety and regulatory people. I've heard we have to be convinced about this. We're not completely comfortable with this, and yet you'll hear some engineers and some on the other tech side saying, no, we're it's good enough. It's still just about safer than human drive. What should we think about that?
Well, good enough isn't going to be. I mean, we don't even have to, like, good enough isn't going to be good enough, right? Like,
Yeah.
if something happens with a Waymo, it's world news, right? It's front page news all over the world. Even though there's car crashes constantly, there's probably
I
one
don't think there's
going
ever
on.
been a fatality with Waymo.
No, absolutely not. And even the injuries are extremely low, and they're usually like really edge cases. So it tends to be, these vehicles are cautious, right? But they
And they've
have
done
to be.
millions of car journeys, by the way. This is not just in the last
Exactly.
10 months or anything.
Absolutely. And it's all public data as well, right? And obviously, once someone publishes their data, you have to read through it very, with a keen eye. But they're bloody safe, right? And that's the way it's going to be. And similarly with regulators, like in the US, there's a new safety measure came in, FMVSS 127, and they're fighting it like hell, right? But basically, you can't pass even that safety measure that has to be on every vehicle. You couldn't pass it without a mix of sensors. You couldn't, a Tesla right now couldn't pass that, right? And they're trying to. So, like, as I say, it's all fine until the weather's wrong and the light is wrong and the things like that. But that's when we crash anyway, right? So
Yeah.
I think I'm very, very cautious, and I think the autonomous industry has to be.
Well, I mean, we have some examples because there have been a fair bit of reporting from the likes of Reuters and others on some of the examples. Now, I'm choosing the ones with the Tesla because I said there haven't been fatalities with Waymo. The ones that have reported just in the last 10 months or so, I have in front of me a guy called Daniel Milligan, who was a former SpaceX engineer, Tesla owner. Quiet road at night. The car gently turns right onto what turns out to be a boat ramp, and instead of slowing down, accelerates toward what he thinks would have been his grave. He hit the brakes. Another one, a woman is suing Tesla in the States after her Cybertruck allegedly tried to drive her off the side of a bridge using full self-driving. And then another guy says that he's lucky to be alive in Texas. He was waiting for a train to pass in the town of Plano in Texas. Said his car's FSD mode engaged while he sat waiting at the railroad crossing, and footage shows that his Tesla plowed through the fiberglass crossing arms, and he had a narrow escape in colliding with the train. So, yeah. Now, those sound like software issues, but maybe some of them are camera issues as well. And maybe it goes to your point that from a regulatory point of view, safety point of view, they're going to look at the totality of examples and make calls based on, they're looking at Waymos on one hand and think, well, we don't see those problems with those cars.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing you have to remember here is the Elon reality distortion field is really important here, because nobody else would get away with it. You know what I mean? It's like if a German chancellor did what Trump did, yes, they're out of a job, right? And it's very similar with Elon. Like if BMW do what those Teslas have done, they go out of business. Like that's not their customer. Whereas Elon's customers are evangelical, right? So they'll kind of go, that's okay. I've seen, people go, the car nearly killed me. I still love it, right? So it's kind of, so you do have to weigh that in. But the scenes you're talking about is that a lot of that is the lack of different sensors. So for example, cameras have to understand the scene, right? And then decide what to do. Whereas if, say, there was a radar or a LiDAR on that vehicle, it will know there's a crossing in front of it. It's a physical thing. And that's what they call like kind of active perception. It sends out, data, it receives data back and goes, that is a thing. Whereas cameras are passive perception. So I don't know if you've seen the kind of Roadrunner video that they did online, which was a bit, bit gimmicky, but they basically, put the wall up that looked like a road, and obviously the Tesla drove straight through it, right? And then a vehicle with proper sensors obviously stopped because there was a big sign in front of them, right?
Yeah.
So that's where those kind of mix of sensors. It's kind of like, I don't even think you have to make the argument for it anymore. It's just safety will win. People will not accept, for bizarre reasons, we accept the level of road deaths right now, but we won't accept it from machines. So I think that, and so I think Ireland's actually been quite good in it. I think we're being cautious. We're testing things. We're seeing, is this okay? Obviously you mentioned Shannon, that I'm in Shannon. Like there's a test bed future mobility campus. It's funded by the Irish government. There's testing going on in Ireland, off-road and on-road, and you don't have to have unsupervised vehicles on the road to test and build these things. That kind of way. I mean, that's how Waymo did it as well. So you can have the safety driver. So I think the government have been pretty clever on this. They're rolling that out. But it goes back to the two things you've described. The end-to-end side, vision only, has a safety problem, but we can't forget that the Waymo approach has a scaling problem.
Yeah.
The happy medium is probably somewhere in between, and I think that's what Waymo are trying to get to. Less sensors in each generation. There's a few less sensors. There's less training needs to be done. So the end to end means it's essentially training itself as it goes. So you see more and more of that being rolled out. So I think AI has kind of bridged the gap, maybe. But by the way, I don't be surprised if you see a Tesla release in a year or two with 360-degree radars. Like if they need them to pass safety, they'll do it, right? Because they're not.
Well, they've such a big
economically,
bet.
they're not idiots.
They've
That's for
such a
sure.
big bet as well on autonomy that I think you could be right. It does sound like Ireland will be, let's say, not first at the races here. We're going to follow what other Europeans do. Would that be fair?
Yeah, and I don't think we should try to be either. I think that's a sensible approach, right? Like, and even just we don't have a vehicle industry here, right? We don't make cars, right? But we do have we've the likes of Vallejo, and we've Bosch and all these guys in the country doing a lot of software, really funky software that goes into these
and yourselves, by the way, Provizio,
and ourselves,
yeah.
Not here to self promote, but yeah, so there's some really interesting companies doing some really interesting bits, but where the cars are made, it makes sense to do most of it makes sense to roll these out in German autobahns and see how that goes, and then bring it here when it's ready.
So
I think
bottom line, Barry, then, like 2026 now, we're talking early 2030s at the earliest, mid 2030s maybe,
that you will have
self-driving cars.
Yeah,
on
I would
Irish
say. I mean,
roads.
you'll never go wrong in this industry saying it's always 5 years away, right? And for the last 15, 20 years, it's been 5 years away.
Well,
And
look, I'll see your analogy there, and I'll raise you one. I remember at CES in 2017 in Las Vegas, Consumer Electronics Show, I interviewed the CEO of Ford at the time, and he told me that Ford would have autonomous vehicles all over the roads in 5 years' time by 2022.
there you go. There you go. And,
So
did you not remember the announcement? It happened.
yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of the reality of it. I think though there's so again, I wouldn't discount the level 2 moving to level 3. I think that is a huge bridge in the operational domains that it's able to do it, like highway driving or whatever else. And even some of the like it's worth testing some of the new generation of vehicles, like the vehicle I'm driving right now. The previous generation was really good on the highway. This one now can drive on its own on our little roads with no road markings and hedges, right? Like, so that's pretty impressive, right? Like in that timeline. So and these guys are just a little cautious on when they kind of let me take my hands off the wheel, but it's really just as a caution thing.
yeah.
Eventually that'll happen. So I don't think the actually, and the big comfort, level 3 is the big one for car ownership, because we do still want to drive a bit, right? But you
Yeah.
do want to take it easy and take your eyes off as well and do some other things while you're driving.
Yeah,
So
you're on a
I think
motorway from Dublin to Cork, Dublin to Limerick, Limerick to wherever, there's a stretch there for 40 minutes, you're going to be on the road. It's not really fun driving that bit of it.
Exactly. And I think that's the piece that will make a huge difference to consumers. Whereas it doesn't really matter whether it's a machine or a person driving your taxi, right?
No. Well, not really. Although, actually, it's interesting you mentioned that, because obviously in the UK, they're going to get a new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, and he has been reported to say that he is very, very lukewarm about the idea of self-driving taxis. And the line he's taking, he's coming from the point of view that what is the benefit to society, he says, he argues, in machines driving taxis when people currently drive taxis. That's the line.
Yeah, but you can't push back against technology. It's just going to happen. It's the whole thing is like all of AI is almost this. They took our jobs, but it's not. It's just going to make us a hell of a lot more efficient, and I think that's
But he could
similar to
slow
what's
it.
going to happen
He
here.
could possibly slow the deployment in London.
Absolutely, and I think that could happen everywhere across all the AI domains. I think that's the big worry. It's a big worry we have. I mean, so much of what we do in the company is AI related. We obviously build end-to-end AI systems, but equally our systems of building are AI based as well.
If
So
you look at Dublin, if you look at the taxi lobby here, I'm not sure it's quite as strong as 2026 as it was, say, in 2016. But like that lobby effectively managed to kill Uber launching its the same type of system that it has not only in the US but across most European cities, most big European cities, and they managed to kill it here. So that was the strength of that political lobby.
yeah.
So I wouldn't totally rule out taxi lobbies in being in slowing AI.
Yeah, and then I'd go back to my first point. I don't think it makes no difference to me whether I get in a taxi with a human or now I don't have the excitement anymore, I guess, right? But that piece doesn't making everything a little. I think safety is a huge
Do you
thing.
know that
Like,
it's really interesting you say that, because I was talking to a number of people in San Jose about this, a couple of locals, and they were saying that one of the reasons that the Waymos are popular is with female passengers at night. They say that like there is a feeling that sometimes you are safer if you were a female passenger at midnight getting into a taxi that is driverless to go from A to B with no other human in the taxi. And now I don't know what that says about the state of, people or the state of California or anything else, but I'd say that's not a particularly unique perspective. I'd say you could probably find people over here that would say the same thing.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, God, yeah, 100%. That's a totally makes sense, and equally, I worry about the tiredness of my drivers when I get into the vehicle sometimes, right? It becomes very obvious to me that I don't know what tachograph this guy's using, but he looks tired, right? So those things, we used to make the analogy, like, where you pick the type of Uber you wanted to collect you, an XL or whatever. Also, it would be interesting to test. Would you like the safest vehicle? Would you pay a premium for a safer ride? And it'd be, and if you're bringing your kids or, a lady at night coming home, I think you'd pay that premium, and I think we will pay it in our cars as well. And legislation is going to bring it in anyway. So, like,
Well, I remember
that's
the
way
argument I
kind of
used to
look at it.
make to I remember years ago, I think it was the same CES, it was 2017. I'd interviewed the CEO of Ford. I was going to write a story about it. I rang up Michael Healy-Rae because he was at the time advocating for against pub closures against stricter driving laws on the basis that they would affect rural pubs. And I rang up and I said, listen, I know this is an odd one, but I'm over here in Las Vegas. I'm doing an article on self-driving cars and self-driving taxis. Wouldn't you be in favor of those on the basis that it would mean you could get in the self-driving taxi, go to the pub, load up with 6 pints, and then just call up another self-driving taxi and go right home again? And you know what was weird? He actually still argued with me on it. He said, no. We prefer the human-driven taxis. I think that was just a reflexive, no. I don't want to replace a job. But that example still goes. I can't wait for the day when I'm going to the pub with a few friends and I don't have to worry about either getting, about somebody being over the limit.
Yeah, exactly. Or the other side is people on the road not having to worry about that somebody on the road is over the limit.
Yeah.
Like my son is out cycling right now. The stress of it, a 13-year-old out just going to the lake for a swim or going to the field for a puck around. That stress is awful because because of the way people drive. So that's kind of the piece I find most interesting here, and I think it's the piece you can't really push back on, because once you can prove that and that's what's actually after happening in certain domains, we've proven that the sensors are better, in emergency situations than the human driver. It becomes legislation, and it's just going to keep happening. And so we're actually, we've moved a huge amount and people don't realize it, but we've gone from level 0 a couple of years ago to level 2 now. Is basically mandated, and then there's more bits of level 2 to get us towards level 3. When you get to level 3, you'll stop caring. And I think that's the big one. So it's an interesting time.
Very interesting time. And as always, you've been a very interesting guest. And thank you very much for your easy to understand explanations of everything. Barry Lunn, founder and CEO of Provizio there. Gav Hennessy was on sound today. JJ Clark produced. And I'm Adrian Weckler. So you've been listening to or watching The Big Tech Show. And we'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to The Big Tech Show with Adrian Weckler, sponsored by Deal. Deal's not just another payroll platform. It's one your team might actually enjoy. HR, IT, and payroll together, finally. Visit DEEL.com/bigtech.